Hello, I'm Luke Mordue, the creator of Urban Legends. And over the years, I've been asked random questions by several of you from people I meet, from all sorts of people. And I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to answer some of those questions. I'll be frank, I haven't kept note of many of them. So a few of these are ones that I remember. Some of them are ones that I have from people texting in, asking me questions, emails I've received, and some of you that have contacted me through social media. But let's get going, shall we? So the first question is, I'm wondering if you've ever considered publishing a book. Your stories are fascinating. Thank you. I can't take full credit for the stories or the stories that I write in my own words are very heavily, obviously, based on the legend itself. So I can only take, 30% of the credit for them, but I appreciate that you like them. Yes, I do, actually. The reason I call this show, the episodes, chapters, is not just because, it's not just for pretentious reasons. It is because each episode essentially works as a written chapter. And those chapters will eventually be put together into 3 volumes of books, which I'm hoping to get published. I haven't even put it together because I'd have to reword it ever so slightly and change it up for someone else to read. At the moment, I write for me reading, it's to my cadence and the way I speak. So yeah, that's the plan though. The plan is when it's complete to approach a publisher and say, hey, look, this is my show. This is all I have. This is my audience. Let's talk about publishing my research and findings as a collection of books, which hopefully you guys will go out and buy. This question is, Luke, could you do an episode about the origins of some Japanese myths, as there are plenty of spirits, ghosts, and onryo to focus on? Yes, a lot of the urban legends I cover, they tend to be, I don't actively go, oh, I'll go to here, I'll go there. I think living in the Western world, I catch wind of more Western urban legends a lot more so, and I grew up with a lot more Western urban legends for the same reason. But I've covered a couple of Japanese onryo, and I will continue to do so, yes. And if anyone ever has anything they want to send over, do so. I'm always open to hear more. This one is in all capital letters. This one says, please do an episode about black-eyed children. I have. It's on Modern Myths. You have to sign up to Patreon for £3 a month to be able to get access to it. But yeah, I've covered the black-eyed children. It's like I think it's a 25-minute chapter. Why don't you do continuous episodes? I think, okay, this is because I do it in seasons. I do it in seasons because it's a lot of research, and I get some money for doing the show through Patreon, which is amazing, and I'm very thankful for that, but it's nowhere near enough to live off of. And I'm a filmmaker. I make film for a living. So I have to be working on content whenever I'm hired to do so. And because of that, when I'm doing a season at the same time as working, I'm juggling a lot, and I'm working in the evenings and the day, and it's a lot, So I give myself like, okay, this is going to be 8 chapters this season, which is now 16 with Modern Myths. I'm going to do these 16 chapters, and then I'm going to stop, get my bearings, get things going, do other things I need to do, a short film I need to finish up, but I haven't had time to because I'm jumping between legends. And then when I have time, I'll begin prepping and writing for the new season to go. Currently, I've done season 5 and season 6, one after another, due to the time of year. And I'm researching and writing the episodes running up to the release of each of them, which is it's not ideal, and I don't want to be doing that again. So after season 6, I will be taking another break. But that's why. It's not that I just can't be bothered. It's that I want to do it properly, and I want to commit the time I can. How do you decide whether a story is folklore, an urban legend, or an outright hoax? My approach is always, I want to go in and prove why this is real. I want to go in and find out what's actually going on here. I'm always looking to find that evidence. That approach helps me find the facts because I'm actively trying to figure it out, where it's coming from and all the evidence of it. What happens, and what I, deep down have grown to expect, is that they tend to be either loosely based on truth or completely made up. The fact none of them are truly ever really a true story. I say none of them, one or two have proven to actually not be urban legends at all. Other times there's been cases where it's like, oh, okay, this story isn't true, but the events that are said to have happened in a story have happened in a very similar way in real life, which is worth noting. Sometimes they've happened more recently than the legend. So it's almost like reality has mimicked the legend that was said to be. And that's always fascinating too. I think from the evidence, it's clear whether it's real or not. And all I do is put my findings down. I don't go in to prove or disprove. I go in just looking for it all. And by the end, I tend to have made an obvious decision based on the obvious facts in front of me. What's your research process and how do you verify what's real when sources conflict? Okay, this is... I use various sites for this. I use newspaper archives where if something's referenced for a certain time of year and it's supposed to have happened in public record, I go, okay, let's find those public records. So I go looking for that and I go searching for it. I start simple. Sometimes when I'm like, oh, I need to research Bigfoot, I will sit and watch YouTube videos of other people that have decided dissecting Bigfoot from scientific analysis to full-on believers. And I just watch them whilst I'm doing other things. And I'm just getting my mindset into what other people are thinking and feeling about this particular legend and what belief is out there. What are people actually really believing this, or is it just considered a story? It helps me get a gauge of that. Then I make myself a little booklet of all the research I found. And then I go through that and then I highlight each one and I highlight all the moments. And then if I notice things that aren't right or something that doesn't quite make sense, I will then dive into each individual thing to try to find more details about it. And then I write up my findings. Have you ever dropped an episode idea because you couldn't source it properly? No, I have demoted legends. So there have been legends that I've considered, this can be like an hour-long urban legend episode. And then whilst researching it, I've realized there's actually not much out there about it. So I can't really cover a full urban legend episode about this. It would just feel a bit short. So because of that, I've then made it a modern myth, whereas I'm like, okay, 15 minutes can cover this well. Things like the Hodag. The Hodag, if I was to make that an hour-long episode, I'd be stretching it out, whereas it's a really interesting 20-minute episode as a modern myth. Alternatively, there's been certain occasions where a modern myth has turned out to have a lot more information, and I've like cracked a code behind some insights that I never expected, and then I upgrade that to an urban legend. Then there's the case such as Sweeney Todd. I thought the case of Sweeney Todd was so interesting because people talk about Sweeney Todd like he was a real historical figure, and there was no truth to it whatsoever. But then when I got into the research of it a bit more, I was like, I feel like I'm crowbarring this one. This doesn't feel like enough people believe in it. I felt like a lot of people, the vibe I was getting was that people almost thought it was an urban legend, almost like no one really believed the whole, the demon barber of Miss Lovett downstairs was a real story, but people assumed it was real stories that have blended together to make the story of Sweeney Todd, which gave it a very urban legend-like feel. But I wasn't finding that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to force it. So I dropped that entirely and moved on to another legend instead. Which episode was the hardest to research? Snuff films. That was... I think the question sounds like they're talking about like, oh, was it really hard to find bits and bobs? And it was. Snuff films was very hard to verify because it's verified because it's very black. It's not very black and white. It's a very blurry grey area where what a snuff film even is, which I thought was very interesting. But during my research on snuff films, I found myself going down a bit of a rabbit hole of the dark web. And I saw some things that I never want to see again, and I was very uncomfortable with seeing. And I remember I had to stop writing because I went, this feels... I feel strange, and it's the first time it's ever really affected me in that way. I can read about things whenever it was seeing images and knowing that those images were there for people's pleasure rather than documentation, and that made me quite sick. So that was a very difficult episode to. I said I call them chapters, and I keep calling them episodes. That was a very difficult chapter to research, and I would like to not have to run. I'm not going to rush back to snuff films. Let's say that much. Have you ever been contacted by someone connected to a case or location you covered? Yes. Yes, kind of. I was contacted by somebody connected to Sean Manchester, who was mentioned in the Highgate Vampire episode. They contacted me to. They didn't really say anything. They were just acknowledging that it was there and how much of a great man Sean Manchester was. I don't even know if they'd listened to the episode properly, but they knew that I'd mentioned him. That much was for sure, and they wanted to let me know how much of a great man he was, and to ensure that I was aware of that. I never try to mock people, or I try to be very respectful, but at the same time, I'm not going to beat around the bush, and I will talk bluntly about people's actions. So I don't know whether she was thankful for the coverage I had or annoyed by the coverage I gave. But that's the only person I've ever been contacted by. Nobody else has. Do you believe any of these stories could be true? Have any episodes changed your mind? There's a few of them that are true. The ones that are true, unfortunately, are the true crime ones. The true crime ones tend to have some truth to them. Not all the time. I would say about 75% of the time, they have some truth to them. As in, a vague crime has happened that can technically connect them. That's a fact. Cryptids, ghosts, spirits, demons, all these kind of things. Unfortunately, I never believed in them, and I've seen nothing to suggest otherwise. Although I'm always open to see it, I would love to. It'd make things a lot more exciting to find evidence of that. But unfortunately, I haven't found anything compelling in all my research. None have really changed my mind. I think I believed that snuff films were real. It just seemed to be something that could exist. And then throughout all my research, everything I was seeing and all the papers I was reading were suggesting that it wasn't real at all and it was just an urban legend. And yet I was fascinated by the blurred line in the subject between, this technically could be called a snuff film, but it's not quite. And therefore, some people considered that snuff, some people didn't. So I mentioned it in the chapter that it depends on your outlook on what a snuff film is as to whether they exist or not. But I don't believe there's like a ring of people creating snuff films out there. But the idea that no snuff film has been made, even though a lot of the things I saw suggested it wasn't, I saw enough to still doubt that. So, that changed my mind in the sense of it made me more wary of the subject, but I didn't just flip at all. What got you into this? I've just always liked folklore and stories. When I was very little, I had a book on British folklore. It was like goblins and ghouls and things like that, and I really liked it. And then the first DVD I ever bought myself when I was about 10 was a film called Urban Legend, which is a very naff 90s slasher film that I love because it's nostalgic. But where the killer was reenacting different urban legends as a way to murder. It has 2 sequels. I've never seen them. But yes, and I loved it at the time. And it was always, those stories were always embedded in my mind. And as somebody that writes dark stories and the kind of films that I intend on making in the future and the kind of film director I want to be in the future, I tend to do dark stories with a hidden meaning or a purpose behind them, or, a layered intention. And that is what urban legends tend to be. So I guess I've always kind of lent towards folklore in that sense. And as I've got older, that's just grown. Then in lockdown, I was having a conversation. I thought, it'd be really interesting to look into whether there's any truth behind these urban legends. And there was no real podcast I could find about it. So I started researching it, and then was like, I could write this up. It's another opportunity for me to do some writing, showed, hey, look, guys, I can write. I'm creating something without having to have cameras and money and all these kind of things, something I could just do at home. So I put it together and began writing and creating the show, expecting to get very small numbers. And then it was about a year in. I compared my numbers to the average numbers, and I found out that I was in the top 5%. And I did not know that for a very long time. I didn't realize the numbers I was getting were not normal numbers, which is wonderful. And I'm really glad that my listeners are so consistent. In your show, where should I start? Now, I've purposely done the show in a very different way. I haven't numbered them. I did originally, but I took the numbers off because they don't go out of date because they're such old stories. It's not like I'm not talking about topical subjects. So really you can just scroll through. I wanted it to be more of an index where you can scroll through and go, oh, what do I want to listen to today? Oh, I'd like to find out more about changelings. Click on the changelings episode. I want to find out more about A Stranger Calls. I'll click on that one too. That's the kind of way I wanted to do it. It's more of a database of different chapters rather than it be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So start wherever you find it the most interesting, because it works for you, because you find some interesting interests, and it works for me because it sucks you in better. If you listen to an episode, you're going to find interesting. Why don't you post on YouTube? Because I have no time. I'm not naturally comfortable in front of a camera, and a part of me is concerned that the show has consistently been very researched and it's pre-written, and if I make a mistake, I just re-say the sentence and stuff. Whereas here, it's quite, you're seeing me as me. I don't want to ruin the idea of this researcher you have in your mind by exposing myself too much, and I don't want to be out there too much in this capacity in a way, but I do intend on making YouTube videos. I would love to be able to make videos that go alongside the episodes, videos where it's just my voice even, and you can see the things that I'm talking about. That would be amazing. I don't have enough finances in place with this job to hire somebody else to do it. I could hire somebody on a low rate. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that kind of person. I'm against exploitation. I also don't want to rush it or do a bad job of it. So I just have to find the time to do it where I can do it properly. And I intend on doing it, and I will. And I do have video content coming in 2026. So yeah, things will be coming eventually. I know I'm missing out on a huge demographic by not using YouTube. I have several times been told, why aren't you on YouTube? I've looked for you. I couldn't find you. And I say, where were you looking? And they say YouTube. And I go, yeah, I really should. The fact that I also work in film and I own film kit, there's no reason I couldn't just set up the camera and do it. I'll get there. How long does each chapter take? A long time. It's sporadic. It's spread out. The research, it takes us, I don't know, up to a couple of days, maybe a day to put it all together. I don't fire it. When I'm researching originally, I'm not being too in depth. I'm just finding different sources, different bits and bobs, all from different sections of the internet. And I put it all together into my little booklet I mentioned. And once I've done that, then I go through it and I check everything and I cross-reference and I say, hang on a minute, this page, this source says this, but this source says this. And I go back and forth and do all this. So this takes probably a couple of days in total. I read them before bed. I read them when I'm on train. I read them when I'm, sometimes I just sit at home and read them, and I do this. And then I've got to make sense of all of my findings and write them all up. And then when I've done that, I've then got to go over it and make sure I haven't repeated myself or talking gibberish for too long. And then once I've done that, I've got to then write the story that goes alongside that. I do that, and then I do the same process. I go over my story. I would go over it a few times if it was another one of my stories, like if it was a screenplay or something like that. But for this, I'm like, I can't continuously go over it. So there are occasions where I come to the recording and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I've missed that, and so I change it on the go. But then I have to record the episode, and then I need to edit that. And then I need to add music to it and clean it up. So it takes, I think each episode probably takes about 4 days in total. If you add up all the hours, it's about 4 days worth of work, which is another reason why I can only do 8 episodes at a time, which is now 16 episodes with Modern Myths, because I don't want to just rush them out. And like this content here, I sit in front of a microphone and I'm chatting, it's done. This is what a lot of podcasters do. And I envy them because I can't do that. And if I did do that, I wouldn't be doing my job properly and I wouldn't be very good at what I do. So I will never do that. But yeah, that's takes a long time. And it's completely funded by Patreon.